Today we're wire wrapping a beautiful little heart-shaped rose quartz crystal. It's got the word love across the front of it in cursive writing, and it's connected on the back around each side. This wire wrap is made in two different parts. The first is the bail and the little layer that goes around the bottom to hold the heart up, and the second is the love word. My little rose quartz hearts are about 40mm by 40mm. And we're using the 20 gauge dead soft silver wire. So for this first piece we need 8 inches. So I just measure and cut that to length, and then we're going to make our bail first. So I just start by leaving a little tail straight at the end and then starting to wrap it around the round nose pliers. Bringing it around 2 full loops to create a nice strong bail. Now we bring this little straight end around the other wire there just to secure it in place. Wrapping it around and crimping it in nice and tight. Make sure you're happy with the loops and that it's all nice and tight and straight. Then we can work on placing the wire onto our crystal. For this first part of the wire wrap, we start by just holding the bail in the center of the crystal there at the top. And I just start by gently bending the bail over the middle of the crystal. So when it's on its side, we want that bail to just be sitting towards the middle. Then we're going to work to just gently bend our wire over to the right hand side. So it's coming down and across the crystal there. Then on the edge of the crystal here, we just bend it so it comes around the front of the crystal straight across. Then we can bend it around the other side of the crystal and then bring it back up to the top at the center again. So the wire looks like an upside down V shape on the back, and on the front it's just got the little piece going across the bottom of the heart. With this wire on the back, once you've brought it back up to the top, you want to just bring it around your bail a couple of times, making sure that that bail stays sitting in the center of the heart there. So you want to hold it on nice and tight and just bring that wire around the bottom of the bail there a couple of times just to secure it in place. Then you can cut your little tail off and crimp that wire in nice and tight. So you should have a nice secure little bail and a nice little spot for your heart to sit in the loop of the wire wrap there. Then we can move on to the next part of this wire wrap, which is the love word across the front, and that holds the crystal secure in place. I find the easiest way to do this is just to grab your crystal and do a loose trace around of the size of it, and then you can work with your wire and you know exactly what size you need to make it. I like to write my word down a few times just to see how the letters all connect together and how I'm going to be able to make it with wire. You can do it just sort of like calligraphy, and it's going to have a wire leading in and a wire leading out. Owls are sort of sometimes done like this with a loop around with calligraphy, but I found that this wire here wasn't coming up high enough, and so you sort of do need both wires coming off the edge of the heart at about the same position. That's why I've done my L as a capital L, so that it comes off the heart at the same height as the E. And then you can bring them around the back of the heart and attach them on, and it's all sort of even and holds the little heart on nicely. You can put whatever word you want onto this heart, but you just need to be aware of the wires coming off at about the same height. Now I've had a bit of a play around with a word, I can draw it into my heart with the letters linking together. Making sure all of your letters fit nicely inside the heart, and then it's got room on each side for the wire to come around. Now for this part, to make our little word with wire, I use about 8 inches of our 20 gauge dead soft silver wire. I find it's easiest to start in the middle of the word so that you end up with equal pieces of wire on each side. So I'm just going to slightly the right hand side of the middle, and I'm going to start with the V. So just grabbing that wire there at the bottom of the V and bending it around my round nose pliers. And using the little diagram that we've drawn onto the heart, we can kind of see how big the letters need to be so that we can bend them into a similar shape and fit them onto our 4 centimetre crystal heart. Gently working with your wire to get it into the size and shape of your word there. That's the top of the V there, and I'm just going to start to bend it around for an E. Just using my round nose pliers there and just bringing the wire around to form a nice little E, about the right size. Once you've done the V and the E off one side, you can start to work back the other way. Just making the bottom of my V a little bit pointier. And just checking the size. So now I'm going to make my O. That goes in front of the V there. Just bringing that wire around in a little loop. You want to check it quite often, just make sure you're on track for size. You can check it on your little heart crystal as well, just to see how it's looking on there and make sure the sizing's good. You will need to make some adjustments as you go along. Once you're happy with those 3 letters, you can start on your L, following loosely the one that you've drawn onto the paper. Bending the wire upwards for a capital L if you want it that way. Play around with it a little bit until you've got it looking how you like it. I like the wire coming up higher and across on this one. I find it's much better and it holds the crystal a lot more secure if it's coming off about the same height as the other wire off the E. Take your time making sure your little word is the correct sizing and that it looks in proportion and how you want it. You can move it a little bit once it's attached, but you do want the general sizing of it to be right. Once you're happy with your word, we're going to just hold the word on the front of the crystal and sort of bend each side of the wire around the crystal on the sides, just making sure that they're coming off and keeping that letter in place. So I've just sort of bent it across first and then around. Trying to bring those wires around at about the same height as well. Now we're going to pop it all together and connect the 2 little wire wraps. So I find it's easiest to grab some tape and we can secure some of it in place so that it's not going to move around too much. So I've just popped the heart back into the first part of the wrap with the bail and the little loop around. Now I'm just going to pop some tape onto the love word at the front there, just to hold that in place. Now we're going to swap onto the back of our pendant. So we've got these wires coming up for the bail in the upside down V shape. And then we've got the side wires coming around, hopefully about the same height on each side. And so we're going to bring the side wires underneath each side of the upside down V. So just gently working with them to bring them underneath. Just checking that it's staying in place on the front there, and then you can keep working with your wires. Once I know it's all in the right position and it's sitting nicely on the front as well, then I just bend each tail back across itself, just checking again. Then we can start to slowly work these wires around the other wire just to secure them in place. So I just gently bend it in around from the end and wrap it around that other wire. So we're bringing it around a couple of times just to form a nice secure connection there of a few little loops. That's going to start to secure your love word onto your heart-shaped crystal. You can see on this one I've got about 2 loops around, and you want about the same amount of twists around on each side, and obviously trying to have them nice and close together and nice and tidy. So you want to work with your wires in a way that you're not pulling it too tight, you're just more working it around. If you pull it too tight, it's going to pull that word apart on the front side as well, so it might affect the look of that. So once you've done one, you can swap onto this other one as well, just bending it in from the end and gently bringing it around that other wire nice and tidy, and about the same amount of loops as you did on the first connection there. I've done 2 loops around on mine here. So I've come around my 2 loops and then I cut the tail off nice and short and make sure it's all crimped in nice and tight. Once you've connected that all up, you should be able to remove your tape. Now you can just work with all your little wires there. Make sure it's all sitting nicely. Make sure that crystal is nice and secure in place there, and your bail's in the center. You can also take your pliers and work with your little letters a little bit just to make sure that they're all sitting how you like them. And there's your beautiful little love heart wire wrapped crystal.